Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for our Game Week 20 team selection video. The video where we'll be having a look at my Game Week 19 scores as well as my Game Week 20 moves. And with 2 free transfers and a lot of money in the bank, there will be some moves this week. So guys, if you do enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's first of all have a look at my Game Week 19 scores. So, in Game Week 19, I scored a pretty mediocre 41 points. I know it sounds like a pretty low score, but I think most people were probably around this point, to be honest. I think the few players that I didn't have, you know, Solanke and Trent Alexander-Arnold maybe, who did score some points this week. Obviously, they did well. I didn't have those players, but I had the likes of Gusto and Isak. So, for once, actually, it was kind of nice to see my my differentials actually competing with the much more template picks. But still, not a huge amount went on in the rest of my teams. It really was just my differentials that did well and nothing else. Another captain failure. Captaincy is so hard at the moment. But yes, considering I didn't make any transfer moves, I had to move to a 4-4-2 formation due to the Palmer suspension, and I just wanted to bench Palmer, not make any moves at all, and just deal with it, you know, and just hold on to him ready for the following game week. I actually think, you know, it could have gone a whole lot worse, to be fair. So, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's just one of those boring, nothingy game weeks that I don't think many people really moved very far up or down the ranks, to be fair. But yeah, let's move on and see what we can do in Game Week 20. Hopefully we can start turning this season around, because I'm not happy with my rank at the moment. It's still a lot better than where I was this time last year. And I did end up with a very good rank in the end last year, but yeah, it's difficult to feel optimistic at the moment. But I think we can do it. We're better than last year, at least. So for Game Week 20, I think I am in a good position because we have got 2 free transfers, we've got a lot of money in the bank, and actually a lot of my players look pretty good for this game week. So let's start off in goal with a player who isn't good for this game week. That is Dubravka against Liverpool. Yeah, he's one of the few players in my team that I'm not totally happy with at the moment, but he's a 4.2 million goalkeeper. What can you really expect? He's really, really cheap. You get what you pay for, really, and to be honest, is any other goalkeeper really impressing us at the moment? I would argue not really. There's not really much going on in the goalkeeper position at the moment. So, yeah, maybe we just kind of stick with the 4.2 million goalkeeper. Not sure, but the fixtures in the next 3 are terrible, and I'll be open to selling him, I guess, but we do need to speak about that in a moment. Next up, Pedro Porro, 5 points last game week. Despite conceding 4 goals, he obviously did get the assist and 2 bonus points. I think that's just kind of summarises what Pedro Porro is all about. I know we often joke that when our players kind of concede a goal, we say, oh, I didn't own them for the clean sheets anyway. I own them for the attacking returns. But Pedro Porro is literally that, right? Spurs are not that good in defence, and they're even worse now they've lost Romero again. So you don't really expect clean sheets, but what you do expect is Pedro Porro on set pieces, creating a lot, and just being the guy to pick up some bonus points in the process of that. So I'm fine with him. He's an okay player. Not expecting a clean sheet against Bournemouth, but an attacking return I definitely think could happen. We've got Gabriel up next against Fulham away. Disappointing result against West Ham for the Arsenal boys, but that was a tough fixture. Let's be honest, West Ham, you know, they're a team, what, 6th in the table. They score a lot of goals. They're a potent attack. You have to kind of acknowledge that, yeah, sometimes even the top defences are going to concede goals against some of the better attacks in the league. Now, I wouldn't say that Fulham, Crystal Palace or Nottingham Forest are top attacks in the league. I'd say they're very much bottom attacks in the league. So therefore, could Gabriel start picking up some points? Yeah, probably can. But at 5 million, what are you really hoping for? Maybe the odd header goal or something like that. Saw that a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I think Fulham is a decent fixture for him. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens there. And finally, I've got Malo Gusto starting at the moment. He's playing against Luton away. Obviously, a really, really nice pickup from me a couple of game weeks ago. Nice, cheap price. Seems to be getting game time at the moment, which is nice with Reece James out. And he's playing well as well. He looks good. Looks good. So I am happy with him in my team. So, you know, be aware of what I'm about to say. I like having him in my squad. My issue is he has played a few games recently after just returning from injury. This game against Luton, I wonder if this could be the game he gets a rest, particularly as Chelsea may look to try and defend the set pieces by playing a right back, a centre back at right back. So could we see like Disasi maybe go there, or you know another centre back maybe play in the right back position against Luton? I can definitely see that happening. So although Gusto was great to own in Game Week 19, for this game week, I am not 100% convinced he starts. Now, Chelsea fans, if you're watching, I would love for you guys to give your opinion on this one, because it could really impact what decisions they end up making this game week. So, Chelsea fans, do let me know. What do you think? Do you think Gusto starts against Luton? Or do you think, you know, too many fixtures recently and maybe Pochettino goes for a slightly different tactic? Let me know in the comments, because that would be really, really helpful. But I'm just a little bit worried about that, even though in general I think he's a really nice pick at that price. In midfield, guys, we've got Salah against Newcastle, an out-of-form Newcastle team, might I add. Salah, the only forward for Liverpool, not getting any attacking returns last game week, which was super disappointing. But hey, that's FPL for you, isn't it? But this fixture right now, it's a very good time to play Newcastle. A very good time to play Newcastle indeed. So it might be a good opportunity for Salah. One more game week before he disappears off to the AFCON for at least a couple of game weeks. I mean, he's possibly going to be gone for 5 game weeks. We might be looking at selling him next week, to be honest. But for this week against Newcastle, it's actually not so bad. It's actually not so bad these days. We've got Heung-min Son. He plays Bournemouth. Son, another player who has still been continuing to pick up points, picking up FPL points, which is nice to see. Recently, pretty consistent. He's, again, another player who's got one more game. He goes off to the Asian Cup. Again, we'll expect for him to be out for several game weeks, 4 or 5. I would not be surprised to see South Korea go all the way in the Asian Cup and Son be out for a little while. So he's a player we're going to have to worry about very, very soon. But for now, Bournemouth, an informed Bournemouth team, has to be said, but not an impenetrable Bournemouth team. And for all that can be said about Spurs right now, they're still very good in attack. Their attack still often looks very, very potent, very, very strong, and Son is a big part of that. So not really too worried about the Spurs attack, to be honest. Even against Bournemouth, who are in form, it's a home game. You know, Bournemouth do play. They're not like a defensive team. They're not like a sit-back team. It's not necessarily one of those games that doesn't suit Son, you know, like a Sheffield United or a Luton. These kind of fixtures don't really suit Son, you know, even an Everton, something like that. This fixture actually, you know, Bournemouth play a bit more open football. They are strong defensively, but they're strong defensively in a slightly different way than is typically expected. So I do think Son is still a good pick for this week. My one concern really is the players missing from this Spurs team. There's no Basuma, but perhaps more importantly, Kulusevski is now suspended for game week 20, and that's going to lose a little bit of creativity there for Heung-min Son, who we imagine is probably going to be playing off the left again, with Richarlison through the middle. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. Next up, Saka. A lot of people looking to sell Saka at the moment. I understand why. He has blanked a few times recently, but it has to be said. And I've been looking into this, guys, because obviously when a player blanks, we need to look into it and see, okay, what is the situation here? Saka's numbers have been great. They really have. And even against West Ham, his expected goals plus expected assists was above 1, I believe, against West Ham last night. So he is definitely a player who is still putting up good numbers and just has perhaps been a little bit unfortunate not to get the attacking return. So have I given up on Saka yet with these 3 fixtures? I don't think so, really. He's definitely not a priority sell. If you really need to free up some budget for whatever reason, or you're desperate to get the likes of, I don't know, Bowen or maybe Richarlison, I don't know. If you're desperate to get a player like that, then I guess Saka is the player to sell. If you can't afford to do it another way. But I think for most people, 90% of people, Saka is just not a priority sell. He is probably going to do fine over the next few game weeks, and the numbers suggest that he's going to come back into the points very soon. So I'm not that worried, to be fair. Let's move on to Brendan Johnson. Still looks like a good pick. It still looks really good. I'm happy with him as a differential pick. Obviously, I wasn't happy when he got the head injury a couple of weeks ago, but certainly Game Week 18, he came back really good. Game Week 19, he did show some promise in that game, maybe not as much as he has done recently, but I do think Brendan Johnson's still a very, very solid differential to go for if you are feeling like going a little bit different. I think this guy is absolutely fine. Bournemouth, again, you know, with Son and Johnson, these are going to be the guys looking to get attacking returns alongside Richarlison and Pedro Porro. Will they be weakened by Kulusevski? Yes, without Kulusevski, they are going to be weaker, but I still fancy Spurs to score a couple of goals in any game. And Bournemouth, yes, they're doing well. Historically, they are not, they're not like a superstar defense or anything like that. So let's see what happens. It's a curious game. I think it's one of the most interesting games of this game week, actually, to see how Spurs versus Bournemouth actually plays out. And finally, we've got Cole Palmer. Yes, we held on to him last game week because he plays against Luton Town this week. So that's going to hopefully be pretty nice. Luton are a decent side these days, to be fair, but
still, you do fancy Palmer to be involved in anything that Chelsea do. With Nkunku back, I think that's going to be nice for Palmer as well. Palmer being able to create for a much better forward in Nkunku is definitely going to be beneficial because he's a very creative player. I think Palmer will stay on penalties as well, and I think he'll stay playing in those advanced positions. And I'm sure Chelsea can't wait to get him back and get him back on the field after a win against Wolves last week. So yeah, let's win against Wolves. No, who did Chelsea beat just now? I can't remember now. I probably should have made a note of this. Chelsea just beat, let's think, Crystal Palace. It was Crystal Palace, wasn't it? 2-1. Yes. Yeah, lost my mind for a second there. But yeah, Palmer, good pick. I still like him. Really good value for money. Yeah, why not? Up front, we've got Watkins. Disappointing recently, I guess, but in fairness, in Watkins' defence, I know he has blanked a few games recently, but he's played the likes of, you know, Arsenal, Man City, Manchester United, a low-block Sheffield United team that played with 10 men in the box for the entire game. You can kind of understand why Watkins has blanked a little bit recently. So I'm not, again, some people will be worried about Watkins and his prospect of future attacking returns. When we look at those past fixtures, they were kind of tough. And to be fair, there is some tough fixtures like Everton coming up. But Burnley at home, you know, they're not a strong defence, and you know we saw what Liverpool were able to do to them. I think Aston Villa will bounce back at home and do very well in this game, and I think Watkins will probably be involved. If you're going to back anyone to be involved, it's probably going to be Watkins. So I'm not, again, another player. Some people are worried about Watkins. I'm not. Finally, we've got Isak in my team. Finally scored a goal last game week. It was a penalty, to be fair, but he looked good in that game. He looked good, but unfortunately, with Isak and Wilson both available right now, there is going to be rotation. There is. I always knew there was going to come a point where I was basically forced to sell Isak because of the rotation between him and Wilson. So regardless of how good, probably the standout player in a poor Newcastle team in Game Week 19, but he's still probably a player that we need to move on very, very soon. On the bench, guys, we've got Turner, Trippier, who I'm not really feeling playing against Liverpool away from home with the current form. Yeah, just not feeling this at all. Taylor away against Aston Villa, not going to happen. And Mubama, just ever the bench option there, sitting last on my bench as usual. So yeah, just in general, the bench is not looking great. It's not looking strong. But the main 11, I think, is looking strong, generally speaking. Turner is my other goalkeeper. He plays against Manchester United. And I think there is an argument to say maybe you should play Turner instead of Dubravka. But I'm not sure. I haven't quite decided on that one yet, which one is the best pick there. I think they're probably similar kind of quality. I'm on Dubravka at the moment, but I can see myself switching to Turner by the deadline. Who would you guys pick, Turner or Dubravka for this week? Not sure. But anyway, guys, like I said, there are a few players I'd be willing to sacrifice. Dubravka is definitely one of them. I think all three of my Newcastle players, in fairness. Dubravka, I'd be willing to move on, but is there any other goalkeepers I could move to that are really worth it? I do have 2 free transfers, so I could make a luxury move this week. Isak, I would be willing to move on as well. I think he is going to cause me lots of headaches moving forward. Trippier at 6.9 million. He's an expensive player who I'm actually not looking to play very much over the next 3 game weeks. I want to see Newcastle really improve their form before we kind of use their players again, really, because they've just been disappointing recently, and I think we need to move away from them, particularly with these super tough fixtures in the next 3: Liverpool, Man City, Aston Villa. It's no good. So I'd be willing to sacrifice him, and with all my money in the bank, I would be willing to upgrade Mubama as well. I could potentially do that, and then next week we could think about getting Haaland in, do a double switch, maybe something like that. And move to a 3-4-3 formation, selling Salah and keeping Son on the bench for the time being, just while we are waiting for Son and Salah to return from international competition. Just sell Salah, keep Son on the bench, and play with a 3-4-3. Maybe that could work, and that would involve upgrading Mubama. So definitely something I thought about. So Mubama maybe is sold there. And finally, a small mention for Brennan Johnson. I don't think it's a bad pick. I like owning him, but I think if I really wanted to get, like I say, a Bowen or a Richarlison or something like that, I think Brennan Johnson is probably the easiest player for me to sacrifice. Not that he should be sacrificed, but it would be the most painless sacrifice, I guess. So yeah, I don't really want to sell Johnson, but there are some midfielders I like at the moment. The question is, should I sell Johnson this week, or should I just wait next week? Because we've got Salah going off to AFCON. If I sell Salah next week, maybe that's my opportunity to get a new midfielder that I like the look of. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. So here are my transfer targets. So the only goalkeeper I really like at the moment is Raya. But again, am I super convinced that he's so much better than Dubravka? Not really. I don't think there's really such thing as a great goalkeeper pick at the moment. I don't think there's any goalkeeper transfer I could possibly make that significantly improves my team. And I do like to make sure my transfers are significantly improving my team. For defenders, obviously I like Trent Alexander-Arnold at the moment, despite that price. Maybe Trippier to Trent, something like that could work. But a little shout out to Purvis Estupiñán as well, who is back finally from injury and back with a goal as well. We know how good Estupiñán is when he's playing for Brighton, and Brighton actually have some really nice fixtures coming up. Maybe I could wait one more week before doing the Estupiñán move though, but at 4.9 million, I think he genuinely could be a decent pick moving forward. For midfielders, Bowen and Foden are top of my targets list at the moment. Richarlison would be in there as well, but because I got Brennan Johnson, it's like I've already got 3 Spurs players. How am I going to get Richarlison? I'm not really sure, but maybe I look to do Johnson to Richarlison. Is that a bit sideways? Maybe. But I do think a Bowen move and a Foden move would improve my team. Is it a case of waiting this game week out and making maybe the Bowen move in game week 21 instead, Salah to Bowen? Maybe that's the priority, because the only player in midfield I'd be willing to sacrifice, I actually don't really mind. I don't mind having this player in my team. And for forwards, it's Solanke and Alvarez. These are the 2 targets for me. I've gone without Solanke for a while. That's been a bit painful. Spurs kind of not in great defensive form at the moment, so you do expect Solanke will get opportunities. We've got Alvarez there as well, with Haaland now confirmed out for game week 20. I don't need to make a Haaland move this week. I had originally planned. That's why I've got all my money in my bank, is because I saved it in order to buy Haaland back this game week, or maybe even last game week, but I haven't needed to do that. So maybe we go for Alvarez. Haaland, we don't know when he's going to return. Hopefully some point in January. De Bruyne, similar situation. We don't know when he's going to return. So I think Julian Alvarez is actually still a decent pick for a few more game weeks. I do like the look of him for the set pieces. Obviously, set piece taker and central striker and penalty taker against Sheffield United when you're playing for Man City is never a bad thing, is it? So do we need to make it any more complicated than that? Maybe Alvarez is the player to go for. And I think that's probably the most obvious move for me, right, guys? Isak out, Alvarez in. Not only do I save money, but I use one of my 2 transfers. I've got to use one of them. You use them or lose them. I've improved my team at least for this game week. And I think Alvarez is even a captaincy option for game week 20 as well. So I think that improves my team. I really do. And maybe we do have to remove Alvarez in a future game week, but hopefully we can gather points in the short term that will make it actually worthwhile. Maybe even get a Man City double game week coming up soon as well. That remains to be seen. Another option is to get Trippier out, Trent in. That definitely works. I have the money to do that. It's not going to impact future plans or anything like that either. So that's absolutely fine. I think it does improve my team, but it's a case of, would that mean benching Gusto? Because if Gusto starts against Luton, I would quite like to have Gusto against Luton. Is Trent much better than Gusto against Luton? Trent against Newcastle? I don't know. I do expect Newcastle to score against Liverpool, but I still think Trent, you kind of, like most defenders right now, we own them for their attacking potential because clean sheets are a bit of a myth. So, yeah, if I kind of got the idea that Gusto was not going to start against Luton, then at that point maybe I'd say, okay, I need to get in a new defender because I don't want to play Trippier against Liverpool, but I'd be okay with playing Trent against Newcastle. I think Trent is a player I would like to own at some point in the future anyway. Maybe from game week 23 onwards, I quite like to own Trent. So just going in on him a couple of weeks early, a slightly cheaper price, I guess, maybe not such a bad thing. But I could also do both. I mean, there's nothing really stopping me from doing both. The only issue, if I did both of these moves, then I would have to take a -4 next game week to swap Salah for Haaland and make a double transfer that way, which I'm not like totally against, to be honest. I don't mind taking a -4 if it really improves my team, but is it worth it? It would basically, it's a case of, what do I do? Am I going to want to take -4 to get Trent at some point anyway? That's definitely a possibility. So if I'm going to do that, do I just do it now? Get ahead of the game a little bit here, or do I wait for further information, or maybe consider going for a Estupiñán instead of Trent next game week, or you know, do I really want to bench Gusto? I don't know, it's kind of risky. So lots to think about, guys, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts. I think for the time being, the obvious transfer move, Isak to Julian Alvarez, I think I'm pretty much going to do that one. Yeah, I can't really see myself not doing that transfer move this week. It's just so obvious. I need a new forward. I don't want to get, I don't want to have Isak in my team anymore. You know, he's caused me too much pain, too much stress. Solanke would also be nice, but I think Alvarez probably outscores him over the next 3 game weeks. So I'm going to go Alvarez here, and we can maybe think about Solanke in a future game week. And I think think I probably leave the other transfer open and roll it through to Gameweek 21 and kind of just try and gather more information and figure out what I want to do is my long-term strategy. But going for Trent now would not cause me any issues. I could do it, but I think I'm thinking of holding off on that one, but we'll see. We'll see exactly what happens in the future. In terms of captaincy, right now I'm on Salah captain against Newcastle with a Son vice captain. The only thing that's influencing that is the fact that Kulusevski's missing. If Kulusevski was playing, then I would perhaps be more likely to go for Son. But Salah against Newcastle, the form Newcastle are in at the moment, I do back Salah to go there and do the business. Yeah, I know he's been disappointing as a captain last game week, but he could still do the business, can't he? And you never know, could get a penalty as well. That'd be nice. So yeah, Salah captain for now, but there's several good options. Really is. Salah, Son, Watkins, Alvarez, Bowen if you have him. There's so many captain options you could go for this week. I think I'm leaning towards Salah at the moment though. So a quick look on the Fantasy Football Hub, my team tool, just to see if that can help me out with any of my dilemmas. I've inputted my team prior to making transfers. So this is my pre-transfers team. An interesting couple of things. Dubravka and Turner are predicted the same amount of points. And the AI team and the AI moves are actually doing really, really well at the moment. So make sure you do go check out Fantasy Football Hub, link in the description, if you do want to see what the kind of predictive tools are suggesting are going to happen. But yeah, Dubravka and Turner equal points. So yeah, I don't know, maybe just play Dubravka because I play him every week anyway. An interesting point is that Son actually has slightly higher predicted points than Salah, but I just think with Newcastle's recent form and Bournemouth's recent form, because I know the predictive methods take slightly longer ranges of kind of data into account. They don't look at so much, well, they do take, you know, recent data into consideration, but they try and take a longer view as well. And typically Newcastle have been a stronger defence, typically Bournemouth have been a weaker defence. So that has factored in to these predicted points. And I think I'm going to back against the predicted points here and maybe go for Salah instead of Son. But in my team, these are the two highest predicted points players. Also want to have a look at my AI suggested transfers. So it's good to see that the two players being suggested are two players I actually do genuinely really want. It's pretty much aligned with what I'm thinking, but kind of the AI is kind of suggesting I do it in a slightly different way. So it says Gusto to Alexander-Arnold. Definitely understand why, but I think if I want to maintain some money in the bank to make the Haaland move, for example, then it's probably going to be a case of not doing this. Particularly if I want to upgrade Mubama and move to a 3-4-3 formation, I'm going to have to leave some money in the bank, and that's my personal strategy. So therefore, Gusto to Trent, just going to take up too much money. It's going to have to be Trippier to Trent if I'm going to do that. And it's suggesting I use my other transfer as well to move from Johnson to Bowen. But again, yes, I do agree that Bowen is a really good pick and a player I do want in the future. But if I can just wait one more game week without Bowen, then I can do Salah to Bowen instead. And that's probably the move I'm going to do. That way I get to keep all of my players, have my cake and eat it. So it's the right players. These are the players I am thinking about bringing in. So I get it. But I think the way the AI is suggesting I do it is slightly different to what I want to do and the way I want to restructure my team a little bit and how I want to deal with the Asian Cup and AFCON situation and that kind of thing. So yeah, the AI is really good for getting your ideas and giving you some ideas and giving you some inspiration. But I do like to try and put a little bit of a twist on it as well, to use these tools kind of as a platform rather than just taking them at their word. So if you want to check this out, you want to see what your suggested transfers are, what your team rating is, who are getting the highest predicted points for Gameweek 20, just click the link in the description. You can check this out for free, get a free trial and enjoy it whilst you can. So yeah, there we go. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If you did enjoy it, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here. And yeah, again, really, really curious to get your thoughts on some of my dilemmas. Which goalkeeper would you play? Do you think Chelsea are going to start with Gusto against Luton? Or do you think Gusto might actually be benched this week? Chelsea fans would love to hear from you. But aside from that, guys, do feel free to go check out a couple of other videos. We did a charity stream last night, yesterday. Answered loads of questions. Went through wildcards. Went through all other kinds of dilemmas. So check out that one. But aside from that, thanks so much for watching once again. And I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.